All right, we're about to meet John Cooper at WaveMax in Hialeah.
I had this nightmare like 3 or 4 times, and I'm looking at my wife going, honey, laundry. We got to look at the laundry. We got to go to the laundry.
We're going to take a deep dive in all the technology, the revenue breakdown, why he chose a franchise, how he's got this great store running 2 years later. All right, today's episode, we have a special treat. We're down here in Miami, Florida at WaveMax with our good buddy, John Cooper. And we're going to spend some time getting to know him, getting to know the facility today. And so thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
Thanks for coming down. Welcome to Hialeah.
I'm familiar with your origin story because you became a member very early on in the process. But for our group here, mind kind of walking us through kind of the overview of what you're up to before, when you got started in the business, and a little bit of your path to getting where we are here today.
Sure. In late 2019, I made a corporate transition. And part of the corporate transition offered us outplacement assistance, and part of that outplacement assistance was franchise brokers.
Okay.
And so my wife and I came to a decision, and we decided that we really never wanted to be solely dependent on an employer again. So we went through a structured process of looking at franchises. We looked at all kinds of stuff, businesses that needed to be disrupted, that needed to be moved forward. And so ended up, we looked at our 2 finalists were a company called Smash My Trash.
I remember that you told me about that. Smash My Trash.
Looking at Smash My Trash, we did the corporate visit there first, and I get back and I'm looking at my wife saying, honey, I think this is the one, and I start having nightmares. And the nightmare every night is like a Scarface scheme with Al Pacino sitting on the big desk, big, pile of drugs and cash, and yelling at nobody in particular, and he's yelling at one of his aides asking him where's the money from the trash. And it turns out that in the city of Hialeah, they have a franchise fee per haul. And so I had this nightmare like 3 or 4 times, and I'm looking at my wife going, honey, laundry. We got to look at the laundry. We got to go to the laundry. And so we ended up visiting WaveMax's headquarters in Jacksonville. And part of what attracted us to it is this is a business that every day people wake up hungry, thirsty, and with dirty laundry.
Yeah,
it's always going to be there, and it's a harder business to take over. And so we decided to go ahead with it, and we spent most of a year looking for a location. It was middle of COVID. It was hard to find anything. Everything was shut down. And so this ended up being, we bought an in-progress project. My distributor had done the initial permitting, had a lease on the location. We bought the project from him. And then during COVID, we spent literally almost 2 years getting it built out. We found a lot of unpredictable delays. Supply chain was destroyed. We couldn't get things. And so we had a lot of kind of unforeseen delays. And so we opened in 2023, and we just, middle of April, celebrated our 2nd anniversary.
Wow. 2 years to build it. Now you're 2 years in, and that's got to be feeling pretty good. Well, let's kind of do the tail of the tape where we are here. You kind of give us the rundown, equipment, square footage, just kind of the, let's get through the stats here.
We have about 4,170 square feet total. It's 44 washers and 44 dryers, all Electrolux, and it's a mix, on the dryers, it's 35 and 50 pound dryers. Our washers go all the way from 20 pounds up to just 77 pounds, which are the biggest ones. And we have Sense as our point of sale and LaundryWorks as the card and mobile system.
Great. You've got the additional services. Give us like a little rundown of kind of your pricing strategy, maybe with the wash, dry, fold, but also on a machine basis. Just kind of give us a table set on that.
Okay, so on a machine basis, when we were getting ready to open, we literally went to every single other laundromat in the 3-mile radius. Washed and dried there, recorded what the machines were, and recorded also how long it took to dry.
Okay.
And so we got not only the cost, but the cycle time. And over the course of time, what we've adopted is we have free dry credits every day. You see the posters around the store. So every wash gives you the equivalent of 22 minutes of properly sized free dried credits. And for the most part, with these new machines and the fact that we've got very good engineering and good makeup air, a normal load is really drying in 22 minutes.
And that time, towels and jeans maybe are going to be longer, but...
The only other thing I've seen that's really long are big, thick comforters.
Okay. For any laundromat, it's all about speed and convenience. Like customers, they love you got a great place here, but they're like, when am I getting out of here? And if you've got these different tools in place to make wash day a little shorter, That's a nice competitive advantage over the other stores.
That's what we really try for. And then on add-on services, we do a pretty brisk wash, dry, fold business, smaller pickup and delivery business.
Then on the machine vent prices, you give us a little bit of a read on that, maybe by size.
The smallest machines start at $319.
Okay, and these are 30 pounders?
20 pounders.
Or 20 pounders?
20 pounders
Okay.
for a regular cold.
Okay.
They're going to range from $319 to about $419, depending on what you're doing.
So you're upcharging based on water temperature.
Water temperature, and these also have both a regular and a premium setting. And then you also have options within either to do an extra, if they're heavily soiled,
Right.
does a pre-wash, an extra pre-wash. And so you have choices. And then on the larger ones, starting with the 45-pound machines, you also have comforter settings, and so you can size your comforters, and they all have delicate settings as well. So you have quite a bit of choice in the wash. And what we found with a lot of clients is that's more choice than a lot of our other competitors.
So from the 40s or 45s, then you go up to
62 and then 77.
Okay.
So
and what are those vending for at the top end of the range?
At the top end of the range, the base price is the 77-pounders start at $9.99. And then roll up from there. And what we try to do is target to be in the middle of the market, not the most expensive, not the cheapest. And then with the free dry credits, we're cheaper on a comparable cycle for most of our competitors.
Yeah, for the full process.
Full end-to-end cycle.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. We call those cycle modifiers, right? So being able to extend time or have other choice that you have in front of you there. And then what about at the wash, dry, fold counter? What are we charging there?
The base charge is $1.19 a pound.
Okay.
For wash, dry, fold. And we're normally turning those around within 24 hours.
Okay.
It's the set time. Somebody wants it same day, it's 50 cents a pound more extra. And then if they want specialty detergent, handling, cycles, or anything else, we have per pound add-ons from there. On pickup and delivery, we do that for $1.99 a pound.
So let's circle back and learn a little bit more about you and your wife leading into this, because this really ultimately is an entrepreneur story. And so do you mind telling us a little bit more about what your corporate background was?
Sure.
Because we always have these incredible backgrounds that find their way to laundry somehow.
So I've done about 35 years of really IT work, consulting work, coming into situations and helping companies improve their people, their process, their technology. Did a lot of traveling all around the world a lot of those years. My wife has primarily been a home educator. She's homeschooled our 6 children. We're going on our 29th and final year of homeschooling. And she's also been a leader, a founder and a leader of our local Catholic Homeschooling Association.
Awesome. And so how does any of that translate, based on your corporate background? Maybe you have a desk in the back, but I'm sure this is a little different day to day for you here.
It's a different day to day. I'd say from an operations standpoint, a lot of my experience, picking people, building teams, selecting systems, writing standard operation procedures, how do you run things, how do you procure things. That, honestly, I was very comfortable with. That I can do very well. Where I've had a lot of learning and a lot of real kind of hard experience is really the marketing side of things.
Okay. Hialeah
is a unique city in the United States. It's one of the 5 least diverse cities in the country. It's 99.45% Spanish speaking only. Almost, and a big proportion of that is first generation Hispanics. And so you can't run an English campaign solely. You have to run it in Spanish. And what a lot of people don't know is that Spanish is a much more nuanced language than English. If you see any signage we have is bilingual. Most of our Facebook and Google posting, our website is translatable.
So speaking of that daily routine, you kind of alluded to that for your attendance, but what does a day in a life for you look like? Hours, days of the week? Like how are you supporting this with your time?
I'm in the laundry on the weekends. I'll come in early on Saturdays. I do most of my maintenance tasks before things get busy. So I'll be in here between 6 and 7. When I need to, I'll fill in on shifts every once in a while. It's not that frequent, but we've had to do it. And then during the week, it's mostly monitoring. Since I have Sense and Laundroworks, I can see on a real-time basis how orders are progressing, what we've got going on. We have cameras, so I can look at the store.
From home.
And then my staff, if they do run into any issues, or they've largely been trained to handle most of the customer service issues themselves. If it's a system issue, which we have every once in a while, they'll call me or text me and I'll get right back to them. I work from home most days, so as long as I'm not on a plane or on the road, I can get back to them real
So
quick.
what would you say for the laundromat, hours at home and then hours here on a given average week?
Average week, I'm probably doing 4 to 8 hours here, and then I'm spending 1 to 2 hours a day checking up on stuff, ordering things, picking up stuff.
Well, that's an awesome top level overview. Now we want to take a tour. Do you want to show us around?
Sure.
Great. All right, let's take a look around at WaveMax.
Great. First and foremost, we have automatic doors, which makes coming into and exiting the laundromat much easier. When you're pulling a cart or 2 carts or one of these big blue carts and you got to hold a door, kind of hard.
That's super convenient, underrated feature, I think, for laundromats. And my eye was immediately drawn to this floor, so tell us what's going on here.
So the floor is actually an epoxy floor. It's part of the WaveMax brand standards. They use national franchise called Garage Experts. They do a combination of, commercial and they do home floors as well. But it's an epoxy floor with a particular set of coloring that's made for WaveMax to coordinate with the colors. And it's really been quite a durable floor. As you walk throughout, there's only a few spots that don't look quite as uniform. So our first aisle on the north side of the store is a wall of dryers. This wall of dryers, the space behind it actually, the makeup airs big vents through the roof. But we've got 8 50-pounders, and then the rest are 35-pounders. And
35-pound stacks. All right, after you, sir. Let's head down the aisle.
And you can see when you look at the OmniLux solution, they're built per bulkhead. So each bulkhead has its own independent system, matched in size to the volume of the washers that they're working with. And
well, let's just take a moment and learn some more about the system. I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but give us a little deeper dive on it's ozone and UV together.
Right, so it's the UV creates a little bit of ozone, but the UV light treats the water. And once the water's treated, it goes into your washer. And so you basically get hospital grade cleaning on cold water and even enhanced on hot water. The UV system treats the water and it changes it chemically. It enhances how detergent works. It improves things, and over time, as you have customers come in repeatedly, their whites are getting whiter, their colors are getting brighter, and it helps the garments and any kind of laundry shed water faster so that it comes out of your washer a lot drier and it minimizes the time in the dryers.
Yeah, a differentiator.
It is.
I like that very much. All right, we'll come around the corner here.
Back corner, we have a customer restroom and an employee restroom. And one of the upgrades that we decided on, my wife insisted on this one, was having a water bottle filler. Be eco-friendly. And thus far, we've filled 12,167 bottles.
Love it.
Which is pretty good.
Love that message.
And it was important to us to do that, and we wanted to make sure that we were factoring that into how we built things and trying to make things efficient and effective and safe. WaveMax logo and chase line is cleaner, faster, safer. So we tried to make the washes and dries as fast as we could, keep the store as clean as we can. We want it to be a place where people feel safe coming, and it's always well lit. The shopping center parking lot is always well lit. As you can see from outside, we got a big parking lot in the front. There's actually parking in the rear, but it very seldom gets used by other than the tenants.
Okay.
We have good entry and egress, so if there were ever an issue, you could get people in and out quickly. Pretty important. And then the other key feature for this laundry, which is something that people told, like you told me, is make sure you have storage space.
Right.
And so we'll see when we go to the back, we've got plenty of extra space for storing either loads of laundry or products.
Okay. Cool. All right, let's head down this aisle and see what we've got going on here.
So this aisle, the first portion is 30-pound machines. So we've got them set up here. The next set are 45-pound machines. And then on the right side, we have the 77-pound machines. On the left side, we have 4 62-pound machines.
Okay, so we got 8-load and 9-load washers here up front where your customers
Up
can
front,
get to them,
where they
right?
come in, and people do come in and use them, and you see pretty huge loads of laundry getting processed through.
Yeah, we like to see these large loads, right?
Yep. And then for short people like me, we have a good set of
Step stools.
Step stools.
Yeah. Well, that's the first I've
Because-
seen them like actually mounted and set up like that. That's a
I'm trying to
clever-
keep them available for
clever
everybody because I know that I can't see the top of the big machines. and that in order to get the product where you really need to get it in the machines, because they're made a particular way, it helps if you've got a step.
Another line of washers here going up to
these are 20 pounds in the rear part, or the 45-pound machines.
Okay.
Then you've got the west wall, which has, again, 8 50-pound dryers. And then the rest of the stacks are 35-pound dryers.
So great drying capacity compared to the wash capacity. Always like to see that.
So and that's how it's designed. And then this first style of machines, most of the time my ladies are using them for our wash, dry, fold operations.
They're
It's
closest
easier.
to the wash, dry, fold center.
Closest to our center, closest to be able to take care of clients. When it's a mix of 30-pounders, 20-pounders, and then 2 62-pounders.
Okay. When we were walking around, we didn't stop at the vending area quite yet. So John, give us a little tour of what you have happening back here.
Okay, so vending machines, we have a drink machine and a snack machine. We have an outside vendor that provides it, and we just share the revenue with them. And then we have our own book nook. What we've done is we've purchased books, and given our homeschooling background, we let people and encourage people to take the books home with them.
Okay, let's check out the back.
All right.
Well, I'm already impressed because how clean it is.
Well, it's got to be safe, and we got to try to make sure that we're keeping all the product where we need it, and we're keeping everybody safe. But we store a combination of, inevitably you have people leave stuff. So we store it for a while in case they come back. If they don't come back, I donate it to Goodwill. But we store all of our inventory for products here. We have a drop safe for nighttime so that we have a safe place to put the money. We keep also our supplies for the bathrooms in here and for cleaning. So we've got a good set of space there. And then actually behind here, we have another hallway and 2 more rooms.
Wow. So this is obviously inherited.
Yes, it's inherited space. I'm not using it for a lot at this point in time. That's a transfer pump that takes all of the hot water and keeps it circulating.
Okay.
When you're in your home, it takes a while for the hot water to get to your shower, and you got to wait. This pump helps keep it moving, and it just runs all the time. And behind there, we have 3 large tankless water heaters.
Okay.
And so back here, we just use it for storage, large factor stuff. We've got gallons of ammonia that we use every once in a while, and then air conditioner filters. What I've found with the air conditioner filters is I literally have to change them every 2 weeks. If I don't change them every 2 weeks, we start accumulating lint on the ceiling tiles, and you're just killing the poor air conditioners, which are working very hard as it is.
Yeah, no, it's super important. The maintenance and your commitment to that makes a huge difference. All right, so let's take a look at behind the dryers.
All right then. On this side, we have a large louver that gives us our makeup air. This louver is actually one of those funny details in the story. When the engineers and architect put things together, they missed the fact that this is a poured column.
Okay.
And so I ended up having to take the makeup air vent, which has to be hurricane proof and everything else for South Florida, and break it up. And I actually enlarged it over what the drawings required us to have. Because the admonition I'd gotten from everybody is if you don't have adequate makeup air, it takes forever to dry.
Yeah, and so for the folks at home, makeup air is really getting fresh air in here for combustion, right? So the dryers can fire off properly. And a lot of stores are starved for fresh air, and they end up using conditioned air from inside the store for combustion, which is you're basically paying to air condition the air, then burn it. So this is a really great solution to that. So kudos to that. And again, I don't see any lint. I don't know how or why, but we don't see any lint back here.
Trying to keep it clean.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it clean.
Good
and I
stuff.
go up on the roof and clean the dryer vents pretty regularly as well, because the dryers, the air conditioners are package units that sit on the roof, and if we don't keep it clean, they tend to accumulate the lint, which is really not good for those units. And then the one accommodation to South Florida, you got to screen things off, otherwise you get bugs.
All right, John, let's go back inside of the customer area and talk a little bit more about how you came to WaveMax.
All right then.
First of all, why a franchise, and then how you landed here.
By history, my wife and I both grew up in corporate families. I've worked for big companies, all of my career. And so it was a little bit of a help play and a humility play to sit there and say, I don't know enough about these businesses to really jump in myself. And when you go into a franchise, yeah, you pay royalties. But coming in, we had store designs, we had operations manuals. WaveMax is the largest customer of Electrolux in the United States. We get favorable pricing on the machines, on the OmniLux system. We get preferential pricing on Sense and LaundryWorks. And the franchise gets an in to help drive where those products are going. Not an official seat at the table, but certainly an ear, because when you've got enough stores, and they've got, I think, 65 open at this point in time, you know, there's some weight to that. And so we decided we wanted to do it that way and go with the franchise, just really to protect ourselves from what we didn't know.
Sure, no, it makes all the sense in the world. I can see how the franchise kind of fit in with some of the corporate experience and wanting to have that handoff. And first thing I walked in the door, I remember that you joined the association even before that and started doing your homework. And I know we had a bunch of phone calls early on. So do you mind talking a little bit about CLA events, some of the other community stuff that's helped you along the way?
Since we knew nothing about laundry other than washing for our 6 kids, you know, I've done a lot of loads of laundry in my lifetime. That I've done. We found you guys out of the gate, easy to join, easy to interact with, very informative. We did a bunch of the virtual events. We ended up going to the first Laundromat Millionaire event in Fort Lauderdale that CLA co-sponsored. Learned a lot there, met a lot of people. Got a lot of expertise, you know, a lot of time listening to the podcasts you guys run. It helps educate you a lot quicker than you can on your own. And having a point of view from an industry standpoint makes a big difference, because there's a lot of things going on that as an individual store owner, you're not keeping track of. And with an association watching out for us collectively that we all support and contribute to, makes a big difference.
Well, we appreciate your membership from day one. I remember that first call about smash your trash. This is a first for me, but I'm glad you got steered toward the laundromat side. And really 4 years later, between the build out and now being open, you've got a beautiful spot here. So congratulations, all that hard work and hard dollars have paid off.
Thanks for visiting.
All right, John, you gave us a great overview of Hialeah in terms of the demographics and so forth. So let's zoom in here to this plaza, and then we'll talk a little bit more about once we get beyond here. But what's going on right here?
Okay, in this plaza, it's called Malecon Plaza. It's a combination of, starting at the far north end, there's a fabric store, an adult daycare, a cafeteria, a convenience store, dog care, dry cleaner, a big daycare, a banquet hall, and a Chinese restaurant and florist. Coming around the edge. And Hialeah is kind of world famous for most of the residences having at least one efficiency. And the efficiencies don't have laundry services. So when you look at an Esri, it'll say 300,000 people live in this, pair of zip codes. It's really closer to 360,000.
Yeah, this is one of the neighborhoods where the formal demographic reports are definitely an undercount. We came down from this way and we saw where there definitely were multi-generation households. Some of those may have been renter-occupied, single family homes. So
that's what you got a lot of that.
So all that means is more laundry.
More laundry.
All right, we're going to go back inside and talk a little bit more how the revenue breaks down at the shop here, and come on with us. All right, well, while we're back in the nerve center here, you got some technology on display. So let's start with what you're doing with the cameras.
Sure. So our camera system, we bought it from a company called Florida Safeguard. They run the camera system and the alarm. So it's the same provider, 2 different systems, but from here we can drop footage, we can do other things, and from my phone I can log in and see real time what's going on a whole set of cameras in here, across the whole floor, the back of the store, the front hallway. We can see what's going on at any given time, and the system stores the footage for a few months. So if we have to go back and look at anything. Now, it doesn't do like traffic counting or anything like that, but it's a very safe system, and the fellow that we bought the systems from actually does all of the Archdiocese of Miami schools and churches. So he's a pretty safe guy.
You're on the good side of that. So, well, let's go take a look at the point of sale system behind the counter.
Sure. So for us, and we chose this well before they ended up merging, but we use the Sense point of sale system. So for us, it's these tablets, it's the point of sale card reader, it's a credit card machine, an integrated scale, And then we've got kind of redundancy on the printers. The Epson printer does the regular label printing. This larger printer is for the dry cleaning tags.
Okay.
It's a good full circle service. The only other thing we found is that you've got to kind of keep people up on the fact that dry cleaning takes longer
Yeah.
than the wash, dry, fold.
Yeah, wash, dry, fold's a fast turnaround. Dry cleaning, usually a couple of days.
It's a few days.
Yeah.
So we generally have Tuesday and Friday pickups and drop-offs. And then on the Sense side of the house, you're processing your wash, dry, fold and your pickup and delivery orders. At this point, we don't have a lot of volume on pickup and delivery, so we use gig economy drivers. Don't have our own van, don't do our own, but you process the orders through here. And my ladies have a phone app from Laundroworks called Wash Links. And so they can use that, or they can use the property management cards to start the machines. But it's helpful because you can literally track for each order what washer I used, what dryer I used, what's the time in, what's the processing time, what's the time out, when did we notify the customer, when did we take care of things. And it's a nice system in that it can toggle between English and Spanish.
Okay.
And so my ladies are generally more conversant in the Spanish. They can go to that and be able to take care of their customers.
Let's take a look at the card system and then take another look at the UV and ozone.
Okay, so the Laundroworks system is a pretty easy touch screen based system. When they want to buy a new card, they have choices. They can pay cash, credit card, or EBT. We charge $1 for the cards. Once they buy the card, then they can either charge it up via credit card, cash, debit, or EBT. And the same goes for the phone app, the Laundry Cap phone app. On that phone app, they can do the same thing. They don't need a card if they have the phone app, but they can recharge via cash, store a credit card on the phone app.
All right, we've had a great day here at WaveMax in Hialeah. John, thank you so much for your hospitality and showing us around. We're super impressed. And you know that my favorite part is you started your journey with us at CLA.
I did.
And obviously you've built out your network and your community. You've got a great store 2 years in. So thanks again.
All right.
Really
Thank you.
enjoyed being with you here. And we'll see you next time.
All righty. Thank you.